Lesson 33B is scale and scale drawings. So yesterday we learned how to use proportions to solve similar figure problems. It's really similar today, but we're going to use scale drawings. And we're going to explain in words what the scale means for each scale drawing that we talk about today. Okay? So, again, yesterday we learned similar figures. This is an enlargement, getting bigger from small to big. So our ratio is small over big. And we solved for that missing value to make this proportional. And then we checked it in a table to make sure the ratios were equivalent so that we knew that it was proportional. Okay? So today we're talking about scale. Go ahead and fill in the blank on your notes. A scale is a ratio between the length of a representation, which is usually a map, a model, or a drawing, or a blueprint, something like that, and the corresponding length of the real thing, the actual object in real life. A scale drawing is that representation, which is the actual map, the drawing, the model, and it's in proportion to the real thing. Maps and blueprints are examples of scale drawings. All right, number one, I have a picture of a map here. This is the map of the United States, and I want to know what the real distance, the actual distance from LA to Houston, Texas is. So if you notice in the corner here, we have this ratio. Looks like 1 inch colon 300 miles. This is called a scale. If you ever looked at a map in the corner, even of Google Maps in the corner on the computer, you'll see this number, usually written with a colon. It's called a scale. This means, in words, that 1 inch represents 300 miles in real life. And I can count using a ruler that from LA to Houston, this is 5 inches. Okay? So again, in real life, it's 300 miles. 1 inch on the map. Go ahead and write this down. The map distance is the small one, obviously. The real distance is the 300 miles. And what the scale means in words is that every inch on the map represents 300 miles of actual real life distance. That scale that you see there on the map, you can write as a ratio that looks like a fraction. So we're going to do map over actual because that's how you read the scale. The first number was the map number, right? And the second number is the actual number. So that's 1 over 300 equals, I want to know what the actual distance is from LA to Houston. 5 I got from the map. I used a ruler and measured this distance. I saw that was 5 inches. So if it's inches, that's my map distance. That's the top number. Map has to be all the top numbers. Actual has to be all the bottom numbers, just like we've always done. And I don't know what the actual one is, so I use an X. This should be a really easy proportion to solve. Go ahead and do that really quickly. X equals 1,500. Please label your answer. It's 1,500 what? Miles, because this is the actual distance. If you wrote inches, you're telling me that your map is a really, really, really big map. Right? Make sure this is miles, 1,500 miles. So now we're going to check our answer in a table. So since we use a proportion to solve this, your ratios should be equivalent, right? If ratios are equivalent, then we have a proportional relationship. But if you got a wrong answer, you did some multiplication incorrectly, then your ratios would not work out. Do you agree? So let's check this. Map and then actual. Ratio is always y over x. So that's 300 over 1. Mapping 5, actual we figured out was 1,500. So 1,505 reduces to also 300 over 1. Since the ratios are equivalent, this means that we proved this is a proportional relationship, so that our x equals answer was correct. All right, number 2, I have a drawing for you. This is a drawing of a car, and that car is called a speedster. And I have a scale for you. The scale says 1 inch to 2.5 feet. What does that scale mean in words? Sean?
For every inch on every picture of the car, it's 2.5 feet in real life.
Perfect. Go ahead and write that down on your notes where it says, what does the scale mean in words? Every 1 inch on the drawing represents 2.5 feet of actual real-life distance. Let's use that ratio now. This scale I'm going to write as a fraction so that I can use it in a proportion. I know that on my drawing, the car is 4 inches long because I measured it with a ruler. I also know that it's 1.25 inches high, but for this problem, all I care about is the length of the car because I want to know the actual length of the car. So the scale I'm going to write as a fraction, 1 over 2.5 equals, what do you think the other half of the proportion looks like? I'm going to use the number 4. Is that going to be the top number or the bottom number? 4 is top number because that's how long it is in the drawing. Drawing is all the top numbers. Actual is all the bottom numbers. So obviously x would be the bottom number then. Go ahead and solve for x. So solve for x. X equals 10, and I asked you to label it. Make sure it doesn't say inches because we are solving for actual. So that car is going to be bigger than inches. Real cars are not tiny, 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 right? That's 10 feet. The actual length is 10 feet. Let's check our answer in the table. Drawing was 1. Actual was 2.5. Y over x, not x over y. That would be 2.5 over 1, which is 5 over 2. Then we just figured out that the actual was 10. So that's 4 and 10. 10 over 4 also reduces to 5 over 2. Are they equivalent? Yeah. So that means this proves we have a proportional relationship, that our scale was correct, that we found a correct answer. All right. So far we've talked about maps. We talked about scale drawings. But sometimes we don't get that. Sometimes you just get a scale and it's in a word problem, which is usually like that because we can't always provide you with a picture, right? We just tell you. The scale on a map reads 8 centimeters to 200 meters. I want to know the actual distance if the map distance is 12 centimeters. You're going to start exactly the same way. First of all, what does this scale mean? Great. Go ahead and write that down so that you know what you're talking about here. And the next step is to write our scale as a ratio. 8 over 200. Since the scale they gave us says 8 centimeters first, I'm going to put 8 centimeters on top. So map over actual equals, what does the other half look like? Adrian? 12 over x. Why is it 12 on top and not on bottom? Right, they're both the centimeters numbers, so they both have to be the top numbers, which leaves x to be on the bottom. Go ahead and solve for x and check your ratios in the table. Great, thank you for labeling. X equals 300 meters. Actual distance is 300 meters. Checking that in the table, we have map as 8, actual is 200. Ratio y over x would be 200 over 8, which reduces to 25. Then 12 and 300 we just figured out. So the 300 over 12 also reduces to 25. Since it is equivalent, then that proves this is proportional. Alrighty? Go ahead and do 4 and 5. Do both of them, and then we're going to shoulder partner those problems. Alright, let's see. The scale means that every 2 centimeters is 15 kilometers of real life distance. So I'm going to start with my ratio, which is the one they gave me. 2 over 15 equals 16 centimeters. Since it's a centimeters number, I'm putting that on the top to match the map numbers. And then the bottom would be x, obviously, because I don't know what that is yet. solve for x, you can use upside down property. You can do 2 times multiplier is 16. So 15 times same multiplier is x. I'm going to use upside down property here. And x equals 120. Label would be kilometers because that's the actual distance. And then checking my answer in the table, which some of you are still leaving blank. Please do that right now with me. The map was 2. The actual was 15. Y over x would be 15 over 2. Map is 16. Actual, we figured out, was 120. You're just filling in the blanks of everything that you know. Y over x is what? Right, 120 over 16, and then reduce it to see if it matches, which was 15 over 2. Since it matches, that means this is proportional, and that our answer was correct. All right, I saw most of you got number 4 right. Let's talk about number 5. Here is my scale. There is a fraction involved. Now, if that bothers you, you're free to use decimals. Half is 0.5, so this will be every half an inch represents 10 feet of actual distance. So that our ratio looks like, I'm going to use decimals, 0.5 over 10 equals 25 feet. Now, this is a 25 feet. Is that going to be the top number or the bottom number? Bottom number. This is where a lot of you guys got tricked going on autopilot. We have 25 feet now, meaning that's the bottom number. So then solving for x, you should get x equals number of inches, 1¼ inches. Fill in your table to check it. The drawing is ½ inch, and the actual was 10 feet. The drawing we just figured out was 1¼ Actual was 25 feet. Y over x gives us 10 over half, which is 20. And 25 over 1.25, which is also 20. If they match, that means what? What kind of relationship do we have? Proportional, which means our answer is correct. Because we were given a scale, which means this should be a proportional relationship. If your ratios don't match, that means it's not proportional. That means you messed up. It should be proportional. Okay? Last one on your notes here, we have a blueprint. It's kind of hard to see on your notes because it's in black and white. If you look up on my screen, a blueprint is a floor plan, basically, of measurements of a house or building. So we have a house here, and it tells you the scale is 3 inches to 16 feet. Brian, what does that mean in words? The scale. What does that mean in words?
3 inches in drawing and 16 feet in reality.
Awesome. 3 inches in the drawing would mean 16 feet in reality. Write a sentence that means something like that. And then that scale is going to be your first ratio in your proportion, 3 over 16. I want to know how long, let's say I'm the one drawing the blueprint. I want to know how long to draw this house if I know that my real house is 80 feet. So 80 being the real number, the actual distance number, is that the top number or the bottom number? The 80 goes on the bottom because that's actual length. Now you can solve for x. I'll let you do that. X equals 15 feet or inches? Which one? Inches. Good, because we wanted to know the blueprint length. So the map length is 15 inches. Let's check your answer in the table. If the blueprint was 3, where do I put the 16? Where do I put 16? Next to it or under it? On the table. Next to it, where it says actual. And then another blueprint number was 15, which is what we just figured out. So the actual would be the 80. 16 over 3, we can leave it that way. And then 80 over 15 reduces to 16 over 3. Since ratios are equivalent, we have what? Good, a proportional relationship, which proves that our answer was correct. Any questions about today's lesson?
No.
All right, number 2s. What did you learn today? Ready? Share.